to the channel. It's good to see you all again. I hope you are having a great Easter weekend. So today, first of all, I just want to say thank you for um, waiting. I know it's been a while since I've made a video, but a couple of things have happened, and I just wanted to make sure I gave the attention to the right place at the right time. Second of all, I just wanted to say my heart goes out to all the Dragon Ball fans out there. I know that with the passing of Akira Toriyama, it is, it's like when you lose your favorite celebrity. It's one of those things where it's hard to believe, especially for my generation, because Dragon Ball Z has been one of the longest running animes that I can think of, and it has, like, I didn't technically watch it until I was already out of high school, but I know for a fact that it has reached thousands of kids in my generation. It's like a staple if you ask anyone my age. So hearing the loss of such a great just anime and manga creator is, it hits hard. um but with that being said, again, like I first stated, I hope that everyone is looking forward to the spring that we have coming. The weather's been kind of wacky recently, but I think we're finally starting to enter the warmer weather, so I think we're gonna be all right. And with that being said, I would like to continue my series, reviewing Pokemon throughout the generations. Now, today we are going to be talking about Generation 7, Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Pokemon Sun and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. Interestingly enough, this really played part, or the part of the story really takes more of a focus on one of the mechanics in earlier generations, the day and night cycle. It's one of those games where they had differences, but it was more of a difference about the time of day that you played more than anything else. Um, like if you're playing Pokemon Sun, the clock was set to the regular time, but if you played Pokemon Moon, the clock was set 7 hours ahead of time. Um, Honestly, it didn't really make much sense to me when I was first playing through it. I know the tutorial was long, and that was one of the complaints that a lot of fans had about the game's intro. It took way too long to actually start getting um, into the game itself. But looking at it from a subjective view, I also understood why that had to happen, because you know a lot of us Pokemon fans, we've already played through the games, we get how it works. We have a base layout of the game, but there are some younger Pokemon fans out there whose this might be their first game, so I understand how the tutorials needed to be more explored, because like I said, each generation is going to have a new set of fans, and they're going to want to learn how to play the game. So that's why it's important that we have to remember to have patience for these games. Now, I will say this generation was interesting because, unlike the previous generations, this one did not have an official Pokemon League, nor did it have the traditional gym leaders. Um, Instead of gym leaders, they issued out trial captains, and with each trial captain you beat, you got a certain badge, or I actually don't remember what the prize was per se, but this also was interesting because you, instead of going into an already set Pokemon League, um, they were just kind of completing the first stages for their official Pokemon League, since it was such a small, it's not as big as the other regions, so they didn't have one yet. So when you're facing the Pokemon League for the first time, you are, you have the chance to become the first champion of Alola, which is where this game is based on. And I think that's really interesting because, normally when you're playing through a game, especially like Pokemon, there's already a set league. So being able to be part of the first um, part of the Pokemon League is really interesting take on it. Um, one of his This is kind of interesting, I should say, because these games kind of, instead of following the third version pattern, they kind of took the previous generation, Gen 5 route on it, and they went with a second game, like where you had the basic Pokemon Sun and Moon, and then you had Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, instead of having like Sun, Moon, and Stars or whatever. And I know a lot of people were focusing on that, trying to predict what the next game was going to be. Pokemon Cosmos, Pokemon Star, but it just ended up being an upgraded version of the original game. And this one didn't actually even have a time skip. They just changed some things throughout the story arc. So it wasn't like it was that big, huge of a difference playing through the original and then the remakes. Um, there wasn't really that lot to expect. One thing I will say though is that this game kind of started the trend of the evil teams not being necessarily evil. Like through Pokemon Generations 1 through 6, you kind of have this thing where your evil teams are a little bit more standoutish, where you could probably tell who they are. But in Pokemon Sun and Moon, and Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, they kind of took the opposite direction and kind of made it to where you think their team is good, but they actually have different motives. And that trend carries through all the way to the current Pokemon generation. So it's just one of those things where it kind of just started the trend of having evil teams not be as predictable as you think they would. So I don't necessarily know how well that plays into the story. The first couple of times it was cool because it kind of put a twist on things, but it's kind of gotten to that point where you kind of predict that's what's going to happen, and it's where you're not sure if you kind of already know what's going to happen, so you lose investments in the actual story. So with that being said, again, it's one of those things that you just kind of have to take it how you prefer it. One thing I will say is this is also followed the trend of removing HMs in the story. Like you had to write certain Pokemon in order to like fly to a different town or crush rocks or something. It wasn't as if you had a certain Pokemon move that could do that for you. It just came standard in with each Pokemon you learn to train. And this actually came into play and introduced one of my favorite gaming mechanics, which was the Mantine surfing. That was one of the best things I ever enjoyed in a Pokemon game. It was nice because I can actually surf. I couldn't hold my balance at all, but being able to see and actually participate in it, even virtually, made me happy. So having that ability to surf with your Pokemon and learn different moves, it was pretty cool. But with that being said, it's looking through it as an overall game. It's like it's a nice game to introduce new. Like I said, it's a beginner game for Pokemon fans that are in the newer generations that haven't fully gotten into it yet, and even by today's standards, it's kind of old because this is way back in 2017, 2018. So it was one of those things where, if you're a newer Pokemon fan, it's a great game to try to get you into the series, but it's not challenging as, Pokemon Red, Green, Yellow, stuff like that. And it introduces a lot of new aspects to the game too, which I appreciate. And I would rank this higher among the generational games than, let's say, Diamond and Pearl, which, was really... if you ask a millennial which Pokemon games really define the games, it would be either Red, Blue, Yellow, or Green, or it would be Diamond and Pearl. I personally think it was Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald that brought the franchise to a head. But like I said, if you're looking to get into the game, this is a great entryway to try to get and figure out all the mechanics and stuff like that. Um, it also followed a theme, and this is kind of one of those things that they took out right away after the release of this game. Um, in Pokemon X and Y, it was Mega Pokemon, but in this game, Sun and Moon, they were Z moves, which were kind of like powered up versions of regular moves. Um, a lot of fans were okay with it. It didn't really pique my interest. It wasn't as, I don't know, exciting to me as it would be for other Pokemon fans. But even with that being said, I would still highly recommend this game if you're trying to get a feel for the franchise, trying to figure out, how you feel about it, whatever. Um, and it's kind of a simple game, so there's really not a lot to talk about. So with that being said, like I said, I hope you all have a wonderful Easter weekend. Um, I'm looking forward to the spring arriving, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a great week this week. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care, and have a great rest of your day. And if you like the video, please like, subscribe, comment. I always look for engagement in my videos. Thank you, and have a nice day.